Oi, pessoal, estamos de volta aqui para dar continuidade aos painéis internacionais. Agora a gente vai ter a honra de receber, inclusive, um representante da Embaixada Britânica, que vai dar algumas palavrinhas antes. Mas primeiro eu queria introduzir o painel. É o painel número 2. Ele vai agora de 3h10 às 4h10, começando um pouquinho mais cedo, mas tudo certo. O tema dele é sobre direitos autorais no mercado fonográfico. E o mediador dele vai ser o Leonardo Feijó, um grande amigo do Gustavo, um grande amigo nosso aqui do prêmio, que teve com a gente em toda essa formação desse painel. O próximo painel também vai ser dele, mas daqui a pouco eu conto para vocês. E é isso, eu vou chamar agora em inglês. I want to welcome, please, Leonardo Feijó, Mário Sérgio Campos, Paulo Batimarchi, Martin Whalley, Mark Vermaat e Gustavo Gonzales for the second panel of the day. Please, Leonardo, with the word.
Welcome, everyone. Boa tarde. Good afternoon. My name is Leo. I'd like to welcome our guest speakers today, Martin Whalley, Paulo Batimarchi, Mark Vermaat, Gustavo Gonzales, and Fábio Geovane. This panel is Brazil and UK, Impacts and Strategies for Increasing Copyright in the Phonographic Market. So we're going to discuss music, technology, and copyrights. I'd like to thank DIT, the Department of International Trade, and the UK government, which supports the Music Pro Awards for the first time. And also, I'd like to thank the entire production team of the event, in addition to our translator, Renata Manzano. So before we start, I have to say that we are mourning the death of singer-songwriter Marília Mendonça in a tragic plane crash yesterday. She was only 26 years old and was one of the most popular singers in Brazil. And she was very important to open space for women in the sertanejo world, influenced by the country music, and it's the most popular genre in Brazil today, right? So in the last few days, we've also lost two another important musicians and composers, Nelson Freire and Letieres Leite, but the tragic circumstances of the accident make us especially sad. Well, this panel, the purpose of this panel is to analyze the growth of the global recording industry, and in particular, how technology is contributing to the process of collecting and distributing copyrights, enabling greater collaboration and business opportunities between Brazil, the UK, and other global markets. Each speaker will have around 6 minutes to present their organization and their view on technology, music, and copyright, and then we will open for interaction between the participants and questions from the audience. All right. So I'd like to hand over to Mark Whalley, please. Welcome, Mark. Martin Whalley.
Leonardo, hi, thank you. Thanks for the welcome. Good to be here. Great. Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Martin Whalley. I'm the Director for Trade and Investment at the British Embassy in Brazil, based in Sao Paulo, and it's great to be here before such an interesting panel and such high-level speakers. So thank you for the invitation, Leonardo. As people know, the UK is renowned for its top-class music scene, and we're known for some of the world's best loved and best known artists, as Brazil is as well. And these artists, these British artists, are admired across the world by critics, by audiences, and by their many fans. And in the UK, the creative sector is a powerhouse. It's one of the real drivers of the UK economy. So what we're looking to do as part of the work we do from the British Embassy in Brazil is connect British artists with Brazil and really sort of drive that collaboration, which results in even better music for fans of British and Brazilian music. And there's quite a lot of examples already of collaboration between our two music scenes. And I'll give a couple of examples which are less mainstream. So if you're interested, please do check them out afterwards. First up, grime obviously has a London base, and grime music emerged in London in the early 2000s. But nowadays, we can also enjoy something called grime as a result of the Brazilian funk scene merged with grime, so Brazilian grime. And grime is the first all grime album made in Brazil, and it also features some British grime artists as well. And another example, which is quite current, is the novella A Dona do Pedaço, which has made indie artist Ru Payne's Lullaby Love Song a real hit across Brazil, so that in the two concerts held in Brazil before the pandemic struck in Rio and Sao Paulo were totally sold out. So just two really great examples of collaboration between the music scene in the UK and the music scene here in Brazil. And the more of that, the better. And we're looking to foster that. And it's great to work with partners such as Leo and others on this call who help that partnership happen. And of course, we're under no illusion that COVID-19 has challenged all of the creative sector. Music is no exception across the world. But according to the IFPI, from whom we'll hear later in today's panel, the global recorded music industry actually grew by 7.4% in 2020, which is a good growth when the economy was not doing so well. And here in Latin America, even better, Brazil led that growth with a 24.5% increase in revenue, putting the country in 11th place in the world in the list of markets for recorded music. In the UK, revenues also grew slightly less, 3.8%. Now, with this increase in consumption comes an increase in copyright. And in the face of that, Leonardo Feijó, who we just heard from, has investigated returns, ECAD returns, and identified a really impressive increase in the royalty payments from Brazil to the UK over the past decade. And today the panel will discuss what's contributed to that increase and talk about solutions which can make copyright distribution even easier and better in the future, and looking after the music, British music for all of its fans. So thanks everyone, thanks to Leo Feijó and also Gustavo Vasconcelos from GRV. And I'd also like to thank our partners from the UK, Mark Vermaat from SOUNDMOUSE and Paulo Batimarchi from IFPI for representing the UK, I'm sure, very well today. Thank you also to Gustavo Gonzales from ABRAMUS and Fábio Geovane from UBC for sharing their expertise. Now, without further ado, enjoy the panel, and back to you, Leonardo. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much. Yes, I'd like to add that, Gustavo Gonzales and Fábio Geovane, they are from ABRAMUS and UBC, which are the two collective societies of authors with the greatest coverage in Brazil, right? So thank you very much. That data that Martin just mentioned is a data collected from ECAD, actually, which is our PRS for music, right? And it shows a growth of 73% in 10 years of, transfer of royalties for the UK from Brazil. So that's really good. Congratulations. So I'll hand over to Paulo, and then Mark, and then Gustavo, and then Fábio. All right. So please, Paulo, welcome.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a true pleasure to be here and share some thoughts with you guys in this beautiful and sunny Saturday. Hope that this will be an opportunity for us to help our audience to think about the future of the music industry, the digital economy, and the creative sector. My role on IFPI and IFPI Latin America, the regional office, is to help our local offices in the region on the content protection side of all this great market of the music. But when we deal with content protection, we're always talking about technology and how to enable the growing digital music industry that we have. And it's no doubt that we saw in the last few years a lot of opportunities that are coming from a better understanding of this market and the digital economy and how to engage with the public. And the bottom line of all this is technology, and how can we better promote copyright protection and distribution with unprecedented variety of business models and technology and platforms that are growing, that are being created. And Brazil is a very good example of that. But before I jump into the numbers and facts on these few minutes, of course, thanks to all our partners here. The UK government has been incredibly positive and supportive to the agenda of copyright protection in Brazil and in Latin America. And I couldn't say anything before mentioning that and thanking Martin and his team and the IPO here, as well as the space that PPM is giving us to discuss that. And moving on this, talking about copyright protection and the technologies behind it, we see in Europe the recent discussions about the European directive for copyright protection and increasing copyright protection. And most of the discussions behind it are pretty much related to how can we use technology by design and have platforms reaching out to the public with copyright protection by design. So if we say that privacy is by design, certain levels of security for our kids or for our customers have to be by design, the copyright protection has also to be by design on content platforms. And this is a major discussion for us because it will certainly allow a much better experience for users and for creators to expand their markets. If we see a better exchange of royalties between different markets, such as UK and Brazil, and strong markets, no doubt that Sertanejo has an incredible presence in Brazil, as well as local UK music. So how can we enable that? And technologies behind all this, artificial intelligence and algorithms are behind of this. Big data and user experience, they are all behind this as enablers and facilitators for this exchange, for a fair engagement of different audiences. And we believe that part of the success of Brazil growth in the last years in the digital arena has also to do with an increase in copyright protection. So you mentioned that, or Martin mentioned that we grew 24.5% last year, but it's also important to mention that piracy, digital music piracy, decreased by 30% last year in Brazil. So having these KPIs, these indicators, progressing positively at the same time is extremely important and shows us that we have here a window of opportunity to have major discussions about how can we enable copyright to be in the digital world and to expand our market based on these technologies. So content ID or fingerprinting recognition, the database behind the fingerprinting, which are topics I believe we will discuss here today, are extremely important on this on the upcoming years for our industry.
Okay, very good. I think it's my turn. So I very much second what Paulo is just saying, but let me first tell you a little bit more about what SOUNDMOUSE is about. So SOUNDMOUSE is a music reporting platform, and we are actually coming up to our 20th birthday later this month. So we started in 2001, and our original service is to provide services to broadcasters. So our first channel was Channel 4 in the UK, which is one of the large broadcasters. And for those of you who don't know the exact details of how that works, broadcasters tend to work with many production companies, literally hundreds, that each need to report the music that they use on their channels into that channel. So that channel is sort of inundated with enormous amounts of paperwork. They need to then process that and report it onto the collecting societies, who then pay out the rights owners after matching all that paperwork to the databases. So the original idea behind SOUNDMOUSE was to automate that process. And we did that back in 2001 by releasing a cloud product at the time when nobody was yet talking about the cloud. Now, things, of course, have very much changed over time. And now it's not even quite clear anymore what a broadcaster is. It almost feels sometimes like that everybody is a broadcaster and everybody's producing video, broadcasting video online. There are OTT channels, and music is everywhere. It's incredible how much video content and other content contains music. All that music is synced in, is used, and then the question is, how is all this tracked? How is all this then reported out to the PROs in a way that the PROs can actually make some sense of it and report the rights owners at the end of the day? Now, our company has very much developed alongside the industry. So the technologies that Paulo is just talking about, artificial intelligence, audio recognition using fingerprinting and other technologies. So that is very much what we are about today. I would say the vast majority of our traditional broadcaster clients and also studio clients will use audio recognition to some extent, but we are also monitoring large UGC platforms or digital media platforms where we are literally tracking, hundreds of thousands of videos per month and effectively creating data in relation to the music that is used on those videos. And that data is then reported out to the PROs. So that is very much the focus that we have at SOUNDMOUSE. It's very much focused on, we've got music users. So those are the platforms, the producers, the creators of programming, and we've got music creators. In many cases, they do find each other, or at least the music users, the platforms, can find the music that is included in the programs, which is of course great because a lot of composers would like to be discovered. I think that was what the previous panel was about, discovery of music. But once the music is used, how does it get reported in an effective way? And some interesting developments that we've seen is that some PROs are now dealing with literally billions of data lines that they need to process. While only 5 years ago, it was millions of data lines. So there's been a tremendous explosion in the amount of data that is being reported. And then the question becomes, how do you automate this process? Because there's a lot of matching that goes on at the collecting society, for instance. So if we report a bit of data of this composer, John Smith, was used at this point in a program or on an online program, how does the collecting society know which John Smith we are talking about? Is it this John Smith or that John Smith? So that's where music owners, rights owners really come into play. They really have a very important role to play in terms of providing the music, the metadata to SOUNDMOUSE so that we've got it in our databases, which is truly essential in this reporting process. Now, just to make it very clear, with automated technologies like fingerprinting, if we do not have the music in our database, we cannot recognize it, and then we cannot report it. And if it's not reported, the PRO, the collecting society, cannot pay out the rights owner. So there's a very, very straightforward operational process. Now, as part of that process, it is essential that we receive the data that is useful to the collecting society. So not just the name, but also IPI CAE numbers, or some labels are starting to use label codes. So that's definitely very sensible. ISRC codes, ISWC codes. So those are international standard identifiers for works and recordings, really crucial to make sure that those sets of data end up in our databases so we can carry out reporting to collecting societies, and so that collecting societies can make those matches efficiently. So I hope that was within the 6 minutes, Leo.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much, Mark. So I'll hand over to Gustavo Gonzales from ABRAMUS. Please, Gustavo. I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. Thank you for the nice words in the beginning. Thanks for the invitation. And good to see you all here. Hello, Fábio, Paulo, Mark, and Gustavo as well. And I must agree with Paulo and Mark with what they just said about the group, because it's not only one. We cannot measure the growth of the music over the past years with just one reason. I mean, seeing the numbers and seeing the figures, of course, what happened that IFPI reported that the numbers of piracy are decreasing, and this is also an important source of revenue as well. But if we don't have a good British music being played in Brazil, this will never be possible. So I mean, we've seen over the past years artists like Ed Sheeran growing a lot. He's been represented by PRS, so he's growing a lot as well in Brazil over the past year. So this is probably one of the reasons. I mean, PRS also represent the Beatles, which is, I mean, they're always very well played, very good composers. The songs are immortal, so they keep playing over and over and over. So I must say it's a combination of reasons that will motivate this growth in the industry over the past years. We can see by the digital market in Brazil as well was also a combination of reasons. It was a very small market until 2017, when the market just simply boomed, and the numbers from 2017 are 3 times bigger than the numbers from 2015, for an example. So it's the Brazilian market, it's evolving naturally. I mean, because we are in a third world country, maybe we are a few steps behind other countries, but the market is growing, and I must say Brazil is today is fully connected to all the platforms, to all technologies that are being released in the market, and this is also contributing to the growth of the market. This week in Brazil was announced that the 5G will be in Brazil until mid next year, will be in many capitals of Brazil. Brazil is a continental sized country, so let's see how it's going to happen. But I mean, what are the benefits that a new technology, a new broadband could provide for the music industry? I mean, the downloads of data in real time, you'll be accessing things with no delays, anything. So everything is going to be growing, everything is going to be much faster, and probably much cheaper at a certain point. So this is also contributing, this technology role is also contributing to the growth of the market. And I think it's the key, is the basis. And I must agree with what Mark said, that by the experience we have in a PRO, with digital, with performing rights, with everything, a good documentation is the key. So if Mark doesn't have the work in his database, or he doesn't have the proper codifications or anything, he's not able to identify the works. It's the same with the PROs, it's the same with everything. And documentation is getting better and better over the past years. The codes, the ISRCs, the ISFCs, we manage both of them in Brazil, so it's very easy for us to do that. But just to make a point regarding the ISWC code, which is the identification for the works, CISAC recently released a new way so the publishers can get access to this data quicker. So the information is being spread all over the world in the same time, much quicker and much more quality, which makes the documentation much better. So this will have also reflections in the whole chain of the process. And of course, it will bring us a lot of good benefits in the next months and probably years as well. So it's on my view, it's a combination of reasons. We cannot just mention one point, but it's important that because of digital, because of the way we are working now, everything is connected. So we need to connect everything in order to get a better distribution, because in the end, it's money flowing to the ones that should be receiving that money. we are paying royalties, and we pay the royalties for the new consuming of music on the digital platforms. So, I mean, having a whole chain connected, it's really, really important, the way we are doing today.
All right, thank you, Gonzales. I'd like to ask Fábio Geovane from UBC. Welcome, Fábio.
Oi, boa tarde. Vou falar aqui em português. Vai ter a tradução aí, então fica mais fácil para todos me entenderem. Bom, eu sou o Fábio, né? Trabalho na UBC. Oi, fala.
Just to tell everybody, you can switch the translation on Zoom down here, interpretation, all right, if you want to listen it in English. Thank you. Go on, Fábio, sorry.
No problem. Ok. Então, obrigado aí, Gustavo. Vasconcelos, ele deve estar aí, se deu uma saidinha, estou vendo ali, saiu. Obrigado, Leonardo, Paulo, Gustavo, Gonzales, Mark, pela introdução aí. Eu ter ficado por último é um problema, né? Muitos de vocês falaram, então agora eu vou dar aqui só uma pincelada, porque a UBC, ela representa, né, a PRS aqui no Brasil, e a gente tem uma parceria já muito grande, de 40 anos, e nos últimos anos, né, toda essa parte de tecnologia, ela ajuda muito, né, na questão de melhorar o relacionamento e também a distribuição dos direitos autorais, né? Tanto para os membros da PRS quanto para os membros da UBC, né? Que também o nosso repertório toca lá fora, toca em outros territórios. Então é importante toda essa documentação, toda essa troca de dados entre UBC e PRS, né? E um fator, vocês já devem ter ouvido falar, um fator importante de sistema, é a CISAC, né? A CISAC, ela provê, através da Fast Track, que é uma empresa que desenvolve os sistemas da CISAC, ela nos ajuda muito nesse intercâmbio de dados, né? Esses metadados, nessas informações, para que a gente possa cadastrar os dados dos membros, né? Dos titulares, o Gustavo já falou, das obras, né? Dos audiovisuais, ou seja, tem uma gama de informação aí muito grande que a gente precisa ter cadastrado para poder, quando a música tocar, a gente lá com o fingerprint do áudio conseguir fazer a identificação e, consequentemente, o pagamento para toda essa cadeia, né? Que a gente tem que pagar o autor, a gente tem que pagar o editor, aí aqui no Brasil a gente faz a arrecadação e distribuição do autoral e do conexo junto, a gente também paga o conexo, então a gente tem uma cadeia muito grande para alimentar. Então a gente precisa ter essa tecnologia por trás, né, esses bancos de dados gigantes por trás, para poder suportar e fazer essa distribuição. A gente recebeu do ECAD ali informações referentes, né, ao crescimento dessa distribuição do Brasil para a Inglaterra, mas também de lá para cá também houve crescimento. Eu diria para vocês, olhando os dados da UBC, que o dinheiro vindo da PRS, ela soma como se fosse o terceiro lugar de obras que mais executam, que mais pagam ao Brasil, né? Então, o primeiro no nosso ranking é Estados Unidos, né? Segundo é a Alemanha, pode parecer incrível, mas a Alemanha, né, toca bastante música brasileira lá, e os territórios latinos, né? França, Itália, Espanha, Portugal quarto ali. Então, ou seja, essa troca de dados ela nos possibilita a fazer o pagamento e o reconhecimento de todas essas informações que a gente precisa para fazer a distribuição, né? Os metadados e os identificadores, igual o Marco falou, são fundamentais. Então, a gente tem uma codificação, eu sei que é um pouco técnico, mas é importante que as pessoas tenham conhecimento. A gente tem a identificação do titular, a gente tem lá um código chamado CAI, IFPI, que identifica esse titular no mundo todo. A gente tem o ISWC, que identifica a obra no mundo todo. O ISRC, que identifica a gravação no mundo todo. Ou seja, com todas essas informações juntas e um banco de dados bem estruturado, né, com os nossos sistemas em linha, a gente consegue fazer uma boa distribuição. Então, eu concordo com o Gustavo que tiveram outros fatores, mas se a gente não tivesse uma boa tecnologia por trás de tudo isso, esse relacionamento entre Brasil e Inglaterra, essa coisa não ia funcionar, porque a gente ia cobrar é o braço, o ECAD que faz a cobrança, e não ia conseguir distribuir porque não tinha informação. Então, é fundamental para que os membros, tanto da PRS quanto da UBC, entrem em contato com as suas associações e informem, né, os seus dados, né? Até mesmo uma questão importante que a gente sempre faz com a PRS é a questão do show. Quando vai ter um show de uma banda inglesa aqui no Brasil, eles nos mandam o repertório, aonde vai ser o show, e toda a expectativa que eles têm com aquele show. E assim a gente faz também quando as nossas bandas, os nossos membros vão tocar fora do Brasil. Então, todo esse relacionamento e essa troca de informação é super importante para a gente manter o pagamento de direitos autorais em dia para todos.
Thank you, Fábio. Obrigado.
Welcome.
Well, I have a question for you all, and Paulo mentioned that numbers on decreasing digital piracy. I believe the audience would be curious to understand a little bit better how it works and which kind of digital piracy are we speaking about here once we don't have CDs or anymore. Most of the market is digital today. How does it work, please?
Well, I remember the old days of the CD piracy. I was here already. It's been 21 years since I joined IFPI, but today piracy happens in multiple digital channels. It still happens on vinyl, for example, and CDs, but that's another topic. In terms of digital piracy, our biggest problem, Leo, today is what we call stream ripping. So these are sites, websites, or softwares that enable the circumvention of technical protection measures on platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, and others legitimate platforms, content platforms, and extract the tracks from these platforms. Today in Brazil, we have around 80 million monthly visits on platforms like that, which is a quite big number in terms of illegal music consumption. But we also have illegal download blogs and sites. We also have abusive YouTube music channels, for example, that are trying to circumvent or to bypass the content ID on legitimate platforms to monetize the content for themselves, for the channel or profile owners. And we have some level of commercial piracy as well. Our main concerns are related to the download blogs, because they do represent a bad experience for the user. So it's a place where there will be very little engagement with the artist, with the content. It's just get the track and move on. And this is where we see a lot of harm for the whole creative chain, from the stream ripping and the blog downloads, illegal blog download sites, because we cannot have any level of marketing engagement or promotion or anything like that as we do have in legit channels.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to add something?
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
No, you go first. You go first.
No, please go ahead.
Well, I think from what is interesting, sort of listening to these sort of different types of sort of illegal use of music, again, content recognition is something that can be applied to catch these things, especially on the download blogs, because those blogs, they effectively are directories of music files, and you can identify what those music files are and effectively take them down. Circumnavigation of the content ID tools or recognition tools is a little bit more difficult in those cases, because those platforms tend to make available the original recording. And if the original recording is altered or in some way phase reversed, or other tricks have been carried out with it, the ultimate consumer of that track is less interested. So I think where it's more difficult is the stream ripping technology. I think that is, I don't know what the size of that problem is, to be completely honest, but I would imagine from a technological perspective, that is more difficult to sort of capture, because you just direct it to a link and you download whatever is related to that link. So you just need to shut down a site like that entirely, which is coming with a whole range of other issues. But content identification could be very useful in a download platform situation.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. And I mean, the piracy of the illegal downloads with Napster was something very usual in the end of the 90s, beginning of the 20s and stuff. This was when the Napster was really growing on that. But I think it's there are technologies to search that and to make probably the kick off those websites, and I'm sure IFPI is doing this. But it's I mean, you can kill 10, 20 will show up with that. But the important point in Brazil is that the number of subscribers on the music service is growing pretty much every month. And because of the COVID-19, people were stuck at home, and more people start consuming music on digital platforms. So there was also a change in the way people were consuming music, like on YouTube. People used to watch music on YouTube or videos on YouTube like for 3 minutes when they were on the tube or on the bus, transportation stuff. But people at home, they're consuming YouTube on the TV. So they switch also the device they were using, and they spend much more time on those big devices at home consuming that. So kids are watching YouTube much more than they used to. And now you can have a Spotify on your TV and everything connected. So the platforms are pretty much connected to big devices you have at home. So it's also a different experience people are having because of the pandemic. I mean, people start engaging and using and having different experience. So the reports we got from Spotify about the usage of music in Brazil is that it grew a lot during the last 18 months, as per se, since March last year, where we had the lockdowns in Brazil, which not probably lockdown, but when it started. Today we have like 25 million of subscribers in Brazil. And I'd say half of that at least is from the free users. So even if they can download and stuff, those services are also offering us a free service. So
oh shit.
Okay. Think.
Let's hope he can come back. Gustavo, we cannot hear you. All right. So anyone else?
Yeah, I may add some points here. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Tá. Eu ia falar um pouco do trabalho da IFPI no Brasil, né?
Sim. Gustavo, Gonzales, você gostaria de concluir? Porque nós...
No, I'm fine. It was just that. Just saying the number of subscribers are growing, and this is also contributing to the market to engage. And I think that this is something that's going to be natural over the next year. I mean, the young generations are always consuming music on those services, and you have everything in your hands with a free Spotify subscription or free Deezer subscription, whatever. It's a lot of work to download the legal stuff to listen. So I think this is something that's going to be ending in the next couple of years.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Please, Fábio, por favor.
Ok. Eu concordo com o Gustavo que ele fez esse timeline aí, né, da época do CD para o digital, mas tem um trabalho fundamental aqui no Brasil, que é o pessoal da ProMúsica Brasil, o pessoal da IFPI, né, que eles estão sempre em parceria com o governo, com a Polícia Federal, sempre tentando ajudar de forma a coibir esse tipo de pirataria que a gente tem hoje em dia aqui. É mais difícil de você pegar, né? Alguns de vocês já falaram, você corta um, derruba um, nasce outro, aparece outro, mas eu acho que é importante continuar esse trabalho para poder mostrar que é ilegal, né? Se a gente for deixar, a coisa vai continua a voltar ao que era antes. Mas eu concordo também com o Gustavo que as pessoas agora estão, que a facilidade da tecnologia, né, ajudou a terminar aí com a pirataria, e o crescimento do número de usuários ele se mostra aí no número da distribuição. Nos últimos 3 anos, ele praticamente duplicou a quantidade de distribuição do streaming. Então, assim, ou seja, o crescimento é notório, e a gente acha que ainda pode crescer mais. O país é dimensão continental, e ele tem condições aí com a nova tecnologia de 5G conseguir chegar em outros cantos para que as pessoas tenham acesso. Hoje em dia falta ainda tecnologia para poder chegar em lugares ainda remotos.
If I may, Leo, let
Yes,
me
Paulo.
just add. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in fact, Fábio, that's it. We've been partnering with the Public Prosecutor's Office in São Paulo and all over Brazil, with federal police and other, Ministry of Justice and other authorities to tackle online piracy in Brazil. And I think we have survived and driven the industry. Drove the industry through, this migration from CDs to online music. We have all these scars here to show, the histories, the challenges we faced, and we have now this opportunity of moving ahead. And we know that, by protecting copyright from this very basic concept of, fighting piracy, we do see a huge amount of users, actually around 40% of the users that are doing piracy, online music piracy, they tend to migrate to legit services if they see less piracy available in Brazil. So our, research, interviews, and other research that we conduct in Brazil with IFPI and ProMusica show us that it is still important to fight piracy. And this piracy fight will evolve to a trust and safety concern for the platforms and the diversity of the music industry, which means, avoiding stream manipulation and other frauds in digital platforms, the abusive use of UGC or UUC platforms and social media and stuff like that, which we hope will enable our industry to remain the first creative industry to expand much more on the digital industry, much more than other creative industries that are doing today.
Yeah, I have the sense that it's much more moving from, what we see as traditional piracy or digital piracy to unlicensed use. I think that is where the problem is sort of gravitating towards. And if you look at, the internet 10 years ago, there was some video on it, but it was always problematic. You had to install a plugin, and it was not a seamless experience. Now, pretty much the whole internet is video. And, there's not going to be any text in like 10 years. It sort of feels that way. And it's just going to be full of video and full of music because that makes the video interesting. And that's, of course, a great opportunity. That's a great opportunity for anybody that is involved in music rights, controls music rights, creates music. So that opportunity is there. But it needs to be licensed properly. And, there's, of course, different types of licensing. You've got the performance license, which is very much the domain of the collecting societies that need to be fed with the information that they can use for their reporting purposes, which is very analogous to how it works on traditional television. The models are different, but there's still a data flow that needs to somehow happen. Or, the collecting societies engage themselves with these sort of technologies as well. So some of the collecting societies that you were mentioning earlier, Fábio, they actually all work with SOUNDMOUSE. So GEMA, ASCAP, BMI, PRS, they're all SOUNDMOUSE clients for different types of services. So that is something where we very much see people coming to us, help us out with, YouTube, for instance. But on the other side, you also have unlicensed music from a more synchronization perspective. And that's especially where the video is created in a sort of context of advertising. And, typically for advertising, there are significant sums of money involved that need to be paid. And that needs to be tracked as well. So for me, it feels like there's going to be a movement, and there's a lot of unlicensed use already on the internet, don't get me wrong, but it feels like that's probably where the focus is going to gravitate towards even more. I don't know how you feel about that. Whether you agree with that?
I completely agree with you. I think this is already happening, and we can see from the short video platforms, explosion in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And new platforms coming. So the uses and the challenge of licensing. And I think, our challenge here, if we do this panel in 2 years' time, it would be extremely interesting to listen to ourselves, because the challenge is transparency, bespoke systems, exchange of metadata, and how can we help the creative industry to expand much more over the digital economy. Yep. And this is all through licensing. Yep.
Yeah.
So we have only a few more minutes before the next panel. I'd like to ask you all 2 questions, but starting with Mark, because we have a few companies in the world working with technology as SOUNDMOUSE does. In Brazil and Argentina and other countries, we have a back office, right? I'd like to ask you, Mark, do you think that countries with that kind of development, using technology to identify these, music and content ideas, could have a growth in these royalties share faster than the other ones that could not reach that kind of technology?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've never really thought about it in those terms, because from our perspective, we happen to be based in the UK, but our clients literally range from Australia and Japan all the way up to California. We very much are a globally operating company. I think the technology is absolutely useful and is absolutely leading to better results, especially where the content is more ephemeral, it's sort of short term. And let's be honest, a lot of the content nowadays is really sort of consumption content. It's not the feature films that are going to stay with us for decades to come. It's things that you quickly watch on your phone, or that you sort of see it's like sort of tomorrow nobody remembers what that was, but there's an enormous volume of that. Now that volume, you would not be able to report that without the technology. So this sort of really fast consumption type technology, you have to have an automated technology to do that. But at the same time, for other types of productions, automated technologies are actually not that suitable. So you need to have the right tool for the right job. But in terms of the enormous explosion of video material that is going out everywhere, audio recognition it's sort of unmissable. You have to have that tool, otherwise it's impossible.
All right, thank you. And the other question I would like to make to you all would be that around 20 years ago we had Napster, and then we saw the iPod, and a few years later, the DSPs as we know now, like Spotify and etc. So it was really fast. Do you think that such a disruptive revolution could happen in a few years from now, and what would it be?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question again. I would say, everything boils down to convenience. How convenient is it to access media? And so I think, media has always managed to sort of grow with, the technologies that were there. 200 years ago, it was a theater, then it became radio, then it became TV. and people just consume this. It's effectively the same content. That's how I look at it, but they just consume it in a different way. I think what you're really asking is like, what sort of new technologies can we expect? I'm just convinced that the entertainment will follow suit, and it will always struggle a little bit when it's adapting to a new technology, but it always finds a way, and it always done that in the past. So maybe I'm just too optimistic, but I tend to be an optimistic person. I think our best days lie ahead of us.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I agree with Mark.
Eu gostaria de falar. Eu tenho um filho de 9 anos, né? Então, a maneira que ele consome tecnologia, a maneira que ele consome música, a maneira que ele consome os conteúdos, já nos dá uma pista de como é que vai ser o futuro, né? Eu venho da área de tecnologia, então eu já consigo observar que cada vez mais o analógico ele vai ser esquecido. Ele não vê a televisão aberta, por exemplo, ele não vê, não sabe o que é, não gosta mais. Então, assim, a coisa dele é toda no YouTube, ou se não no Netflix, ou de outras maneiras, mas não do jeito que eu estou acostumado a fazer, que eu ainda faço na minha casa ainda. Então, assim, a nova geração, ela vai ditar o que vai ser o futuro. Então, eu acho que tecnologia vai ser fundamental e também vai ter que ter alguma coisa, como o Marco falou, muito fácil, muito intuitiva. Tudo que é intuitivo, essa galera nova gosta. Então, o que é intuitivo vai ser o que vai ser disruptivo. Pode parecer contraditório, mas é.
Yeah, no, Leo, I agree with Fábio as well and with Mark. And at a certain point, I mean, you ask what we can expect for the future. I mean, if you go back like 3 years ago, we didn't expect a TikTok platform like we have today. So market is still, especially on the music side. And I mean, could we consider that? Well, let's go back 10 years ago. Could we imagine that we will have Netflix as we have today, and all the VOD service, and everything is going to be much faster and much easier with more technology. Sometimes we have like a lot of people watching on the same band, and the movie goes slow, and to charge and stuff. In the next year is going to be automatically like changing a channel. So just click and it's gone. So of course we will have changes. Of course we will have new stuff. But what's going to be that's the challenging point. I think a lot of new windows will be open due to the 5G technology that's growing not only in Brazil but all over the world. This will bring us. This will put a music in another level. To consume music on that is that the quality of music. A lot of people complain the quality of music from the DSPs. They don't like the quality of music. If you have a very quick broadband to transfer your music, then you can have music in very high definition, like the Dolby Atmos, which is a new technology that embrace you with much more speakers than the 5.1 we are used to. So a lot of things are coming up in terms of technology, and this is going to be transforming the industry. I think the music industry is something that's going to keep transforming itself. It's been happening like this over the past years, and it's going to be It's going to be still happening as well in the next years.
If I may, well, that's what I absolutely love about this industry, and how it evolves so dynamically. But I would say they are already happening. There are a few very interesting things happening. In the backstage, I think there's a lot of conversations about metadata and licensing. I think what we're talking about here is revolutionary because it will allow a true expansion of the market. But behind the scenes, we see, investors. This is a game changer, for rights owners. So investing funds, buying catalogs is something extremely disruptive for the creative sector, let's say. And I think we'll see some surprises in the following months and couple of years on that respect. And gaming and virtual reality, the metaverse. So that is, from the consumer perspective, for sure, our next frontier. So the music and the game industry and the virtual reality, so Roblox and stuff like that will be our next stage. We already see artists performing on the virtual reality, on the metaverse, and we will see more and more interactions, more and more digital goods being sold for fans on that arena. And it will be extremely interesting to be part of all this. You're on mute, Leo.
Sorry, I lost you for a few seconds. It was, but yeah, all right. Okay, we have 3 more minutes. People are saying me. Anyone else would like to say anything else? I mean, Paulo, I agree with you. I mean, Facebook is betting on metaverse, right? And Netflix is betting on games inside the platform. It's really interesting. So what would you say for, I know it's not exactly your field of work. I mean, speaking for musicians and artists directly, but what would you say, considering all this, video consumption and, licensing, what would you say for a musician today if they have to plan their career? What should they do? Because, going to stages and, performing live, it's coming back after the pandemic, all right, but it was never something that was sustainable for most of the artists. What would you say?
No,
I can like
start.
to add that, streaming is not sustainable at all for 95% of the musicians.
I think the challenges musicians and artists face is that they need to understand about the business, something that perhaps many years ago, some of them would be interested on how the business works. And today they definitely need to be part of, events like this, for example, to engage with the business part of their career and understand the multiple platforms and engagement with fans that go. It's much more than a like or a comment on a post and stuff like that, so I think if there is one thing to highlight is that artists need to be part, to understand the business they are part of.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. And I think very specifically, they need to understand the value chain. How does the money flow? Because, of course, it's great to make music and it's great to place your music. But what we see is that people often get their music played on all sorts of platforms, but then they forget to deliver the music to somebody that can actually track it. And, then they won't get paid. So, understanding that value chain is really, really crucial.
Yeah, I agree with Mark and Paulo.
Eu acho que o artista ele não pode perder a oportunidade, né? A gente já tem exemplos de artistas que conseguiram sincronizar, por exemplo, música em jogos e ganharam lá uma boa quantidade de royalties, de dinheiro. Então, assim, não pode perder a oportunidade e entender exatamente aonde é que ele vai atuar. Eu acho que sempre tem que estar direcionado para um nicho, mas olhando para todo o universo, né, para não perder a oportunidade.
Yeah, I mean, it's also an important point, Fábio, but also about learning about the market, how it works. Don't lose your faith. It's an advice as well. It's not easy today. With technology as well, everyone can be a musician at home with a computer. So don't lose your faith.
That's good, Gustavo. Actually, it was never easy, right? So it's still difficult. It's a difficult career. So you have to, dedicate yourself. And, as Paulo said, you have to understand the business. I think so. I really believe that musicians, artists should understand how things works, so as they could see opportunities and different ways of making money from their music. So guys, I think that's it. We have to close the panel. Thank you very much for being here. Mark Vermaat from SOUNDMOUSE, Paulo Batimarchi from IFPI, Gustavo Gonzales, ABRAMUS, Fábio Geovane, UBC. I'd like to thank again Martin Whalley from DIT, and also Iago Caetano, Vanessa Barbalá, they work for DIT as well. Paula Novo, who works for ECAD, is here, and that's it. Thanks for being here. I think it was, I could learn a lot again. Hope to see you soon. If you have anything else to say, pleasure to meet you.
Hi everyone, Lucas here again. Thank you all for this panel. One wonderful panel for this evening to us. We're very honored and happy to have you all here. Leo, thank you again for bringing everyone together. Mark, Paulo, Sergio, everybody, thank you so much. It was another great panel for us. The next panel will still be with Leo Feijó, so you guys will see him again in a few minutes. Again, thank you all. We're very happy and honored to have you all here. And now I'm going to give the word to Leticia so she can introduce the rest of our schedule in Portuguese. So again, thank you very much and have a nice evening. Leticia?